Welcome to my channel. I'm Natalie Candela, hypnotherapist, transformation coach, and a spiritual teacher. You're about to listen to a recording of one of my regression sessions. If you enjoy the content on my channel, please consider subscriing. And if you click on the bell, it will inform you of any of my future postings. Also, leave a comment and click like, because that helps to bring this kind of content to more viewers. I hope you enjoy the recording, and I hope to see you again in my future videos. And I'd like you to tell me the very first things you see as you reach the surface.
The name Jared came to me. In that old town, I see a large clock on a corner in a town with carriages and stores.
What's the clock showing?
I'm not sure. It's the afternoon.
And how does it feel outside? What's the temperature like?
It's comfortable, maybe a little warm.
I'd like you to look down at your feet and tell me what you're wearing on your feet.
I have men's shoes.
What do they look like?
They're brown, dusty, but nice dress shoes.
And as you become aware of your body, tell me what you're wearing on your body.
Slacks, pants, and a button-down shirt with suspenders and a hat, a top hat.
Do you carry anything in your hands?
No.
And are you young or old?
Probably upper 20s.
Are you healthy?
Yes.
Become aware again of the things you're seeing around you. Tell me what else you notice.
I notice there's lots of people going place to place. It's a busy town. I felt like there were carriages, but I don't see any horses. So maybe it's old cars.
Do you see any vehicles on the road or just people walking?
People walking and vehicles parked but not driving, and storefronts.
And become aware of why you're standing there. What is the reason for you to be there now?
There's lots of storefronts, so maybe going to the store. Shopping doesn't feel right, but I feel like I was going for something.
Now, I'd like you to come closer to one of the storefronts and describe the storefront to me.
It feels tall and wide, like there's multiple stores. And the store has glass and large lettering, but I don't know what it says.
Are those English words?
Yes.
I'd like you to look into the glass of the storefront, and you will see your own reflection. And tell me what you see.
I have the hat and the brown hair, clean shaven for the most part. Can't figure out if I have a mustache or not. Tall, but not overly so. And the store is like a clothing store. I don't feel like it's in the US. I feel like it might be England.
You said you're wearing a top hat. It's one of those black ones.
It's brown and not as tall as a top hat.
So on the count of 3, you're going to reach the destination that you were heading for. 1, 2, and 3. And tell me what you see.
I feel like I'm either in the store or in a church, and I don't know why it feels split.
And just become aware of what's around you.
So I'm in a church, in a pew. It's almost like a Catholic church or old-fashioned with a crucifix.
Are there people around you?
It's mainly empty. There's not a service going on, but there are some people. I'm sitting there alone.
What are you doing?
I feel like I'm just having quiet time.
Do you like to come to church to have quiet time?
I almost feel like I'm mourning something.
Who are you mourning?
Wife.
What happened to your wife?
She died. She was sick, but I feel at peace. I'm mourning, but I'm not sad.
Were you together for a long time?
For a little while. I'm okay that she's gone, and I'm okay that she's not suffering, and I know it'll be okay.
Was she suffering before she died?
I feel like she was. Like she was sick.
So on the count of 3, you're going to see yourself standing in front of the place where you live. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what you see.
It's woods. It's almost like a little cabin. It's green, and there's lots of trees, and like a wrought iron fence along the front of the property, and it's small.
So go ahead through that fence and describe the house to me a little more.
I want to say it's green, but I can't make out if it's siding. It has a feel of a cabin. It's small and just has a little bit of a yard around it and a few windows.
Why do you have a wrought iron fence around the cabin?
Feels like to keep the dogs in.
You have dogs?
I don't see them, but I'm aware that I have them. A dog, maybe.
So go ahead and enter the house and describe to me what's inside.
Walking into a kitchen table that's like Amish built, but looks homemade. And there's a stove. It feels like there's stairs, but there's only one room upstairs, one bedroom, and just a small living room off to the side, on the other side of the kitchen.
What kind of stove is it?
It seems a wood-burning stove, like there's not electricity.
Now become aware of who lives in this house, if there's anyone besides you.
I think it's just me now. I think it was me and my wife, but it's just mine. It feels like it was mine before I got married.
So now become aware of your wife more, and the details of your life together and how you met will come to you. And fill in those details for me.
I feel like she might have been sick when we met, but I wanted her to be happy. So I did what I could to make her happy while she was alive. I want to say it was some kind of cancer, but I don't think they had a word for it.
So when you met her, you knew that she could die soon?
Yeah, I feel like we had known each other for a while and we were friends, but then it grew into love. But she had been sick for a long time, off and on. She was never healthy.
What kind of symptoms did she have at the end?
Not really able to keep food down, so she had lost weight, coughing, not being able to get up.
How long were you married?
Not very long, 2 or 3 years.
Did you have any children?
No.
How were you supporting the family?
I feel like I worked in that clothing store that I saw at the beginning.
What do you do there?
Clerk. I feel like I stayed well dressed to help sell the clothing.
And do you still work there?
Yes.
And this cabin where you live, is it outside of town or in town?
It's outside of town a ways. I walk to work though.
How long does it take you to get to work?
20 minutes.
Okay. How big is your town?
It's not real big. It's pretty small. But it has the downtown area with the stores and the church.
Do you have any relatives in the area?
I don't feel like I do. I feel pretty alone.
Do you have relatives anywhere else? Any family members somewhere?
I feel like I grew up in this town, but I'm not feeling any brothers or sisters. I feel like parents are gone, but I feel like this cabin's where I grew up.
What is your name?
I feel like it's Jared.
Okay. So Jared, on the count of 3, you're going to move to the next significant event in that lifetime. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what you're experiencing.
I feel like I'm at the cabin, alone, older.
About how old?
50s.
What are you doing?
I feel like I'm working in the kitchen. I feel at peace, being alone still. I feel like I was always alone, but I like being alone.
Did you choose to be by yourself?
After my wife died, I didn't want to be with anyone else. I was happy alone before she came around and after.
And what do you do during the day?
I feel like I still go to the shop sometimes, but I also like to just work around the house and do yard work and gardening.
So you have worked in the same shop?
Yeah, I feel like it's been pretty stable, pretty normal.
Has your position in the shop changed?
I feel like I might be an owner. I don't feel like I'm just a clerk.
How were you able to become an owner?
I just worked there so long. It almost feels like it was inherited in some way.
And how is the shop doing?
Seems to be doing fine. I don't go there as often though. There's other people that help run it.
Do you have any friends? Any people you socialize with?
People that come to the shop. People don't really come around the house at all. I like the house to stay to myself. I like to stay to myself.
So you don't have any close personal connections with people?
Not really. I'm kind of a recluse.
How is it that you and your wife connected?
I want to say we met in school and we just were friends. I had always been one to keep to myself, but it felt comfortable with her. She was one that I could actually allow to be close, and it felt more because she needed me. And then when she was gone, I still just kept to myself. There was no one else that made me not want to keep to myself. But I feel like when I'm at the shop, I'm a lot more sociable and I talk to people as they come in, but I like to keep to myself otherwise.
I'd like you to imagine yourself at the shop, and when you make a sale, how do you record it?
There's a logbook.
So I'd like you to go look at that logbook. You may just see yourself recording something there.
Yeah, it feels like one of the old style pens with real nice writing. And you write the name, what they are purchasing, and the name of the person buying, and the amount.
Did you put dates there?
It feels like there's a date column.
I'd like you to look through that date column until you find a date.
Alright. It's May of 1901.
Okay. Do you ever take walks in town?
I feel like I've never had any other transportation other than walking. I walk to work, I walk back to the home.
So as you walk through town, you might notice street signs or signs that indicate the name of the town. And tell me what the town is called.
It's like South something or Sutherland or something that starts with South.
So as I count to 3, we're going to move to the last day in that life. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what's happening.
I think I'm walking.
Where are you going?
I'm headed to the shop again.
How old are you now?
Upper 50s, lower 60s maybe.
And then what happens?
My right leg keeps feeling stiff. And I've felt that for a while, and it's hard to walk because my right leg is stiff.
Do you reach the shop?
I don't think I do this day.
What happens?
I think I get tired, and I sit to rest on the side of the road.
And what are you feeling?
I'm just tired.
Does your leg bother you now?
When I'm sitting, it's not so bad, and I stretch it.
Did anything happen to hurt your leg earlier in life?
I feel like there might have been some kind of infection, but it never slowed me down till now.
So move forward in time and tell me what happens next.
I feel like I just sat down to rest and then passed away peacefully right there. I felt like I was just ready to go. Like I was tired from life.
So as you allow your spirit to lift out of your body and float gently above, you're going to look back at the life you left behind. And tell me, what are your first thoughts and impressions?
I feel like it was a happy and just a simple life. Just a life with no real expectations. And that's why I enjoyed being alone, because I didn't have someone else's expectations on me.
Now as you continue to rise in your level of consciousness and awareness, you're going to begin to remember what is it that you wanted to experience in that particular life.
I think just being able to be happy being alone and being able to rely on yourself.
You feel that you accomplished what you came there to accomplish?
I do.
What was the purpose for your relationship with your wife?
To allow myself to be needed by someone else, and to allow someone else in, even for a short time, and to be there for her.
Was that important for you?
It was. I needed her in my life, and I knew it was only going to be a short time, and I was okay being alone after she was gone.
Now become aware of the injury in your leg and identify the source of the injury or the damage that was done to the leg.
The infection, or whatever it was, took a large portion of the muscle on the back of the leg, right above the knee, and so the rest of the leg had to make up the difference. But it wasn't super visible, and I was able to walk normally for the most part, so no one knew really that it was an issue.
And so I want you to fill that space within your leg that was affected by the infection with healing white light, so that the muscles are regenerated and that energy of damage, of tightness is released, so that any impact that it might have on you in any timeline is released and removed. And tell me when it's done.
I think it's done.
Good. As you allow your breath loading to begin to drift away into a place of pure bliss, you will begin to rise to allow yourself information available for direction. And I'd like you to tell me the first impressions that you get as you reach the surface.
I feel like there's an ocean, like I'm on a shore.
What do you see around you?
It's a busy place, almost like the eastern shore, Massachusetts or something like that, and it's a busy town. It's not like a shore you can walk down to the water in, it's more like I'm on a walkway and the ocean is beyond. The other way is the stores and buildings and businesses.
Is it like a port?
Something like that, yeah. Not a place that people would go swimming, not a beach. It's where you can see ships and boats, and that's why it's a good place for businesses.
So describe to me the people that you see.
I see some fishermen, their boats, but then there's also businessmen and fancy people walking up and down. Women with the big dresses and the big hats, and the men with the fancy clothing.
Describe to me what their dresses look like.
Bigger dresses where they have a corset, but then the dress flows out real big, and the men are in like tailored suits, and it's like cobblestone streets and walkways.
And I'd like you to look down at your own feet. Describe to me what you're wearing on your feet.
Simple shoes, and I feel like I'm a female and I'm in a dress, but it's a more simple dress, not as fancy.
So tell me what your dress looks like.
It's yellow. It doesn't have the big crinoline fluff under. It just hangs, and it's fitted, but I don't have the corset, and I just have simple shoes.
Do you have anything on your head?
I don't have anything on my head. I feel like my hair might be in braids, 2 braids.
Are you young or old?
Older teenager, young adult.
Are you healthy?
Yeah.
And become aware of why you're there at this moment.
I feel like I was just walking to look out at the ocean.
Was there any reason for it?
I wanted to go there and think, and even though it's a busy place, when I can walk and look at the ocean, I can think easier.
What are you thinking about?
I feel like I'm there thinking about marriage, because I'm the age that I'm supposed to be getting married.
What makes you think about marriage?
Everyone my age is supposed to be getting married.
Do you want to get married?
I do.
Do you have a family?
My mom and my dad. I feel like I'm the oldest in the family, like there's some younger siblings. I feel like my parents expect me to get married.
So is that more of a responsibility for you?
Yeah.
What are you pondering as you look at the ocean?
I'm excited about it, but I'm not sure.
Are there options available to you?
I feel like there are.
So on the count of 3, you're going to see yourself standing in front of the place where you live. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what you're experiencing or seeing.
It's a large house, 2 stories, beige color, and it has some property, but not huge.
What is the house made of?
It's got siding, and it's more modern for its time. I feel like it's the 1930s. I don't know why I think that. It just keeps coming to me.
Are there other houses nearby?
There is. We have a couple neighbors. There's a blue house that's down the way. This part of town is more like well-to-do, has people that have a little more money. I feel like my family has money, but I don't like it. That's why I dress more plain.
Why don't you like it?
I don't feel like money's all that important. I just like to be myself. I don't like to adorn myself for a while. I just like to be comfortable.
Where does your money come from?
My dad, he inherited quite a bit, and he works. He's a businessman, business owner that does well.
What type of business?
A shipping business, which makes sense with it being on the port.
So go ahead inside the house and tell me what you see there.
You go in at first, and there's a parlor, a sitting area, and you can go further into the kitchen, and it's a large kitchen. It's very clean. My mom likes it to stay clean. And even though I have little brothers and sisters, it's hard to tell that kids live there. There's a separate living room and bedrooms upstairs.
Does your mom have any help at home?
Yeah, I feel like there's people that clean and cook.
Tell me about your siblings.
I feel like there's 3, 2 sisters and a brother. But I'm older than them and not real close to them. It feels like they're all more closer in age.
How about your relationship with your parents?
I feel like it's strained because I don't like the lifestyle they live with the money, and I prefer things more relaxed. And I feel like that's the issue with the marriage, is they want me to marry someone with money as well, but that's not the kind of life that I want. I want a simple life.
Do they have any young men that they want you to marry?
Yeah, it seems like there's one that they want me to marry, and that's the option that I have, but I don't want to marry him because it's all about money, and that's not what I want.
So is that what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I feel like I have a responsibility to get married, and I'm the age that I'm supposed to, and it's what everyone else wants for me.
So did you already make a decision, or are you still considering this option?
I've made the decision to go forward with the marriage, even though I don't want to, because that's what everyone else wants for me.
I see. Are you expected to accept the decisions that are made for you?
Yes.
What would happen if you said no?
A lot of people would be very disappointed, and I might be left on my own. Someone my age, being female, I couldn't be on my own.
Did your parents indicate that if you don't follow their expectations that they may leave you without inheritance or support?
Yes.
Okay. So now on the count of 3, I'd like you to see yourself having a meal as you would usually do. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what's happening.
It's at a table in the dining room in our house, and every meal is a fancy meal, and you had to eat properly, using the right utensils and having the correct manners.
And what's the atmosphere like around the table?
It feels strained, like everyone's trying to put on their best face, and you can never relax.
Do your parents always have these high expectations of all the children?
They do. You always have to act right, have the right manners, do the right thing.
How do your younger siblings feel about it?
They're better at it than I was. I was always the troublemaker.
And why is that?
Because I like things to be more simple and relaxed. And I don't want to do everything the right way all the time.
And become aware of what is on your plates, or what food is on the table?
There's tea and teacups, and there's salad and finger sandwiches. It's almost like a lunch.
Is someone serving you?
It's brought to the table by someone that's serving it, but they make themselves scarce. They just bring it and set it down and leave.
Is there a certain order in which you usually sit around the table?
It seems like the spot that I'm in is the spot that I'm always in. I'm aware that other people are at the table, but I'm not real aware as to who it is. But my spot at the table is along one of the sides towards the head of the table.
And where are the parents?
Dad's not there. Dad's at work. Mom's at the head of the table, and there's siblings are sitting as well. Maybe a grandparent as well that lives with us.
Is there any conversation?
It's just surface conversation about how the day was and things that are going on.
Have you told your parents your decision yet?
No.
So become aware of what you do next in terms of this marriage.
I feel like I actually end up deciding against it.
Why is that?
Because it's not what I want.
So even though there might be pretty severe consequences.
Yeah, I feel like I go against it.
And what happens?
I want to say that I leave, but I don't know where I go.
Become aware of the conversation that you have with your parents as you tell them your decision.
I don't think I told them. I think I just left, ran away.
Why do you choose to do that?
I didn't want to hear their opinion. I knew their opinion. I was old enough to make my own decision and go.
So where do you find yourself after you leave the house?
I go down by the boats.
What do you do there?
I feel drawn to the boats. I feel like I join one of the boats, and I leave that way.
What do you mean by you join one of the boats?
Not one of the expensive shipping boats, but like one of the fishers' boats. And I decide to go out with them and work instead of getting married.
And they take you in?
They do. They're always needing work. They don't care that I'm a female. And I've always worked hard. I enjoy working hard over just sitting at home with money.
So move forward in time to the moment where you settle into your new routine or your new life. And tell me how things are going.
I make a life for myself on the boats and working with the fishermen, and I'm strong like they are.
Where do you live?
It seems we live on the boat.
So it's a long-term fishing?
Yeah, like we go out on the ocean for months.
Are there any other females there?
No.
And how do the men treat you?
At first they're standoffish, but then they come to realize that I can do what they can do, and they come to rely on me to work hard.
And do you dress the way they do, or?
Yeah, I dress like the fishermen and the pants and everything, which is more comfortable.
Mm-hmm. So on the count of 3, you're going to move to the next significant event in that life. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what's happening.
I've been on the boat for a little while now, but I feel like that's how I die, as the boat sinks when I'm still pretty young. I never did get married or have any kids.
Okay, so let's slow down the events. And tell me how old you are.
I'm feel like I'm 23.
And become aware of your family, your parents. Have they learned of where you are?
I don't know. I never told them. I never reached back out to them. I've never had contact with them since I left.
How long ago was that?
4 or 5 years ago.
And so as you reach your last day in that lifetime, tell me what happens.
It's fairly early in the day, and we're setting up to throw the nets and do what we do. But we see a storm coming in that we weren't ready for. We're too far away from the dock or anything. So we start getting the boat ready for the storm, but we just don't have enough time. And it hits us pretty hard. And I can't get the boat to stay up to do what it's supposed to do. Working alongside of everyone else, trying to make sure it doesn't capsize, but there's nothing we can do.
So as you go into the water and your soul leaves your body, you will begin to feel a sense of peace and well-being. And as you begin to merge with your soul, you begin to understand what you wanted to experience in that lifetime. Tell me what you understand now.
I understand that I could make my own decisions and I could fight for them despite expectations.
Was that the purpose of that lifetime, to experience making your own decisions?
I feel like it was, yes.
Why was that significant for you in your soul journey?
Because I tend to rely on others too much and not trust myself, which is different from the last life we visited, because I was confident in being alone and doing my own thing. But this one and other lives, I have a hard time trusting myself. But this one I did trust myself. I did what I wanted to do, and I was happier than I would have been if I had gotten married and had the money.
Now release those images. Allow the trauma of that death to be released from the muscle memory. The memory of that traumatic death sinks deep into the ocean, being released fully and completely from your soul memory. I'm going to ask your higher consciousness to guide you now to a life experience where the pattern of releasing your own authority, releasing your own voice, giving it to somebody else, showed itself. And I'd like you to tell me the very first impressions or the very first things that you see as you reach the surface.
I feel like it's my current life. I feel like a child at the house that I grew up in.
And what are you seeing around you?
I see the house I grew up in, and the fence out back, and we had dogs, and my siblings. I was the youngest of 5, so the family running around and just playing.
And as you look down at your feet, tell me what you're wearing on your feet.
Old tennis shoes.
And what are you wearing on your body?
Older shorts and a t-shirt.
And about how old are you?
About 4 or 5.
What are you doing in this moment?
We're just outside playing. It's summer and it's hot, and we don't have air conditioning in the house, so we always stay outside because it's hotter in the house.
And what are you playing?
I feel like my siblings are all playing like kickball or something, but I'm not playing that. I'm more over with the dogs.
Do they usually include you in their games?
They do, but I didn't want to.
Do you have friends your age?
Yeah, I have some friends that live close.
So you're going to move forward in time to another significant event. And tell me what's happening.
It took me to when I was a young teenager. It's when I first got my own bedroom. We always had to share bedrooms, but I first got my own bedroom, and my mom took me to start the horseback riding lessons, which was something I always wanted to do, but they never had the money for it.
How does it feel to have your own bedroom?
It's nice to finally have a space that I can have on my own. I've shared a bedroom for so long.
Are your siblings still sharing a bedroom?
No, we all have our own at this point. My older siblings moved out, and so it's just me and my brother and sister and my mom and dad, so there's enough bedrooms for everyone.
Do you like to spend time in your bedroom?
Yeah, I like to be in there, away from everyone else.
Why is that?
It's just a time that I can do my own thing and not have to do what everyone else wants.
Are your interests not the same as everyone else's?
Not really. But I always let them pick what they want to do or what they want to watch or on TV or what games they want to play. But when I'm in my room, I can do those things that I want to do.
Why do you let them choose?
I just always have. I've always deferred to others what they wanted to do or whatever they wanted to have in life.
How does it make you feel when you let others make decisions?
I like when they're happy. I always feel like my happiness isn't as important as others.
Why is that?
I don't know.
So allow those images to fade. We're going to travel again. In that space where everything, where the everything is in the past, to find your praise. And so as I count to 3, you're going to be guided to the experience or lifetime, the source of your desire to allow others to make decisions, to put yourself last. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me the first thing or impression that comes to mind.
I'm looking up at the sky. I feel like I'm in a field.
What are you seeing in the field?
Farming. It's got rows of dirt. I feel like I'm working in the field.
Mm. So look down at your feet and tell me what you're wearing.
Wearing boots that are muddy, work pants, and a button-up shirt that I've rolled up the sleeves.
Are you in a male or female body?
I'm in a male body.
Young or old?
Middle age.
Do you have anything in your hands?
I have a hoe because I'm working the ground, getting ready to plant.
Do you see any other people around you?
There's other people working, but not close.
And who does this land belong to?
It belongs to me. I'm the main farmer of it.
What are you about to plant in this field?
It's going to be for corn.
Is the field big?
It is. It is a large field. We don't have the big farm equipment. It's before that time, so we have to do it all by hand.
On the count of 3, you're going to see yourself standing in front of your home. 1, 2, and 3. Tell me what you see.
It's a fairly large but simple farmhouse with silos off to the side.
How big is the house?
It has a couple bedrooms. Not huge, but it's not small either.
So go ahead inside and tell me what you see.
There's like a kitchen and a living room area. Everything's simple, not real ornate. There's a set of stairs and a couple bedrooms upstairs.
Who lives in this house with you?
I feel like I have a wife and kids that live here.
How many kids do you have?
3.
Are they young or grown?
They seem young, and they're boys.
Tell me about your wife.
She works in the field too. She helps, and she cooks and works in the house a lot. She works hard.
How's your relationship with her?
It's good. We're happy.
How long have you been together?
About 9 years at this point, I think.
Did you marry later in life?
I guess for my time it was a little later. I took a while to get married. It wasn't quite 30 yet when we got married, but it was close.
This farm, did it belong to your family or did you purchase it?
I think it belongs to my family, but just the land did. I had the house built. I don't feel like I built the house, but I had it built.
So now, on the count of 3, you're going to move to a significant moment in that life. 1, 2, and 3. And tell me what's happening.
I'm outside and I'm going to the barn to work with the animals.
What kind of animals do you have?
Cows and sheep and some horses. And the cows and the sheep are for food. And the horses I use for working on the farm and around.
How do you feel about your life?
I don't feel super happy. I feel like I've checked the boxes of the expectations.
Whose expectations?
The expectations of when I was growing up to get married, which took me a while, and to have kids. I like working on the farm and being out, but I'm not sure what would make me specifically happy. I was told that having the family like I'm supposed to would make me happy, but it doesn't particularly.
I thought you said that you were happy with your wife.
I'm happy with her, but being a farmer and having this domesticated lifestyle, it's not that I'm unhappy, but I'm not happy.
So who was it that guided you through those expectations? Who told you the things that you needed to do?
That's always, how I grew up and the expectations of the world and the picture of how your life is supposed to look.
Become aware of the place where you live, the location, maybe a town nearby.
Something with an A, some kind of Anaheim or something like that.
How large is it?
The town itself is fairly large, but I live outside of town.
Okay. Now, see a newspaper that you might find or buy in the town, and you're going to see at the top a date and perhaps even the name of the newspaper. And tell me, what you see?
I feel like it's in the 1800s, 1850s maybe.
Do you see the name of the newspaper?
Anaheim sounds right, but I don't know about the name of the newspaper.
Move to the time earlier in life where you were making decisions about the direction of your life. And tell me what you become aware of. What were your options? What was the decision-making process?
I was very young, like 3, being told stories of how your life should be, how it should look, just being told from a very young age what my options were, and there was really only one option. Get married to a woman and have a family and farm and provide.
Who told you those stories?
My mother.
How did you feel about those stories?
time I was just little and it sounded good. It was clear. That's what I was supposed to do.
So now move to when it was time for you to begin to make your own decisions about your path in life. And what was happening at that time?
Schooling. But I didn't go much past 13 or 14 in school. And then I was learning how to work on the farm. But there was really no time for actual decisions. The decisions were made.
When you feel that the decisions are already made and your path is kind of laid out for you, was there any part of you that felt that there could be something else?
Yeah, I think so. I always felt like I would like to travel. I think that's why I felt discontent looking at my adult life, because I never got to travel.
Did you ever express that desire to anyone?
No, I always kept it to myself.
Why was that?
Because if I did those things, then I wouldn't be able to do what I was supposed to do. This is a boring theme through my life, always doing what I was supposed to do.
And what do you think would have happened if you followed your heart's desire?
I'm not sure. I never entertained the idea enough to do it.
Okay. Just imagine yourself rising above that life. And you're going to look at that life from a soul perspective. And I want you to consider that thought that you never allowed yourself to consider in that life. Is it okay for you to be aware of your own desires? Is it okay for you to have your own path? Is there power that you have within you to pave your own path?
Yeah, there's power there. There's the desire to pave my own path. I always worry about making others unhappy, though.
So as you look at that life from above, become aware of your sole purpose in experiencing parents that pour into you that certainty that there is one right way, and that way has already been predetermined for you, and any deviation from it is unacceptable. Mm-hmm. Why was that experience important for you?
To learn to make my own path, even though I didn't, but to show me that I could have, and I need to find the courage to make my own path.
So in that life, you experienced following what you're told. Was there a significance in experiencing that?
It was show me that it doesn't make me unhappy. It just doesn't prioritize my own happiness.
Did you consider the purpose of that life fulfilled?
Yeah, I did.
Okay, good. So as you allow those images to fade away, I would like to ask higher consciousness to come forward. May I ask you some questions, please?
Yes.
Thank you. So I know that you could have brought forward many different lifetimes for Sara to review today. But you chose one of Jared, a young man, another a young woman working with fishermen, and a third one a farmer. Could you please tell me why you selected those lives for her to review?
To show that something that she's been working on for a long time, to prioritize herself and her own happiness, and she's getting better with it as time goes on, but to show that it's been a theme that she's been working on.
This is definitely one of her main questions. Why is she a people pleaser, and why is she having a hard time trusting her own opinions? So can you point me to a clearer example of a starting point? Because it doesn't seem like there was some kind of turning point where she made a decision to turn away from herself. So was there a turning point, or was it just a sequence of regular life experiences?
as a sequence, and she's always been conscious of other people and is able to feel their energy. She's always been one to try to avoid negative energy, which happens when other people are unhappy. She's conscious of how others feel, and she's good at seeing the viewpoints from all sides of an argument. And it's trying to help her realize that she can make others happy and make herself happy at the same time. It doesn't have to be at the expense of herself.
So the second lifetime where she was a female, she actually chose to follow her heart.
And she was happiest then, even though it was a shorter life.
But in that life, she did a pretty dramatic exit from her family, so it was still kind of all or nothing.
Right.
In this life, is she learning to make it more of an integrated part of her experience?
She is. She's learning how to take others' feelings into consideration, and for a large portion of her life she'd put herself back and not focus on her own happiness, but now she's learning how focusing on her own happiness isn't taking away from others. She's learning that she's not responsible for the feeling of others.
So I wonder if you can take that second life where she chose to follow her own path and bring that experience of choosing your own path to the forefront so she can viscerally feel it within her body and integrate it into her current consciousness, so that when she is considering the choices that she's making, she can tap into that memory of choosing her own path, knowing that the circumstances now are different and that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, that she doesn't have to walk away from everyone in her life to follow her heart.
Right.
Is that energy brought forward, that imprint?
Yes.
Good, thank you. So she'd like to know, what is the best next step in her relationships so that her relationships can be most aligned with her path and her life purpose?
It's important that she always looks inside herself to make sure she's working towards her own happiness. And anyone that she's with can be working towards their own happiness as well. And it can be done in tandem with her. And if it works against her own happiness for their happiness, then it's not the right thing. So it's about working in tandem with a partner towards happiness.
The information and guidance for that would come from within her,
Yes.
from her intuition.
Yeah, she knows. She just thinks about others too much.
Right. What is the purpose that you set for this life?
The purpose was, as the other lives, to learn to be happy and to work towards her own happiness, and to also help others see that, to help others work towards their own happiness, to encourage others to be themselves, encourage others to not be afraid to step outside of what they're supposed to be and to be who they really are.
Thank you. Can you help me understand the soul agreement between Sara and her husband?
To be there for each other through the beginning, and to learn to forgive and to love despite shortcomings, and to learn to let go when needed, and to learn to encourage and cheer each other on as you find separate happiness.
Help me understand the same for her children. What are the soul agreements between them?
For her daughter, it's encouraging her to be strong and to be herself. Her purpose with her daughter is to encourage her to not be afraid to be herself, how it's okay to work towards your own happiness. both very strong spirits, and together they're even stronger. And then with Jerry, it's different. The contract between Sara and Sara feels more like fire and strength and fight, not in a bad way. But with Jerry, it's softer. It's to be a soft strength, to help him be who he is, and to help him be okay with who he is, to be able to reach his potential. And he's teaching her that patience and ability to be happy even when things aren't perfect in the world.
So what is the best way that Sara can support both of her children in their own individual journeys?
To be there for them, but to make sure that Sara prioritizes herself, because it gives them permission to prioritize themselves. So it's more of a being an example.
Right. And that would be sufficient.
Yes.
So I'd like to ask about a dream that Sara had when she saw herself as a kid standing outside of a barn. If you could help her understand what that image or memory was about.
That was one of her lives, and we didn't visit it today because it wasn't significant, but it's just one of her lives and one of the memories that stuck with her. And she was happy in that moment. It was so vividly peaceful and happy that she can recall it. It was a peaceful, happy life.
So is that an energy that we can bring forward and intensify so she can tap into it in this life?
Yes.
Good, thank you. She feels a special kinship with horses. Can you help her understand why that is?
She's worked with them in a lot of different lives. She's always had an affinity for animals. Horses are large and strong and muscular, but they're gentle. That strength along with the gentleness is something that she identifies with. She wants to have that strength, but she wants to be soft and gentle to those around her. And also horses are often very obedient, but they have a fire within them. So again, returning to that theme of being happy and not sacrificing herself, keeping that fire alive.
So it's reconnecting with her own inner fire.
Right.
Okay. I'd like to ask you to do a full body scan of Sara and just review the entire body. And if you find anything that's out of balance or needs our attention, please tell me what it is. And just walk me through it as you're going through the scan.
Starting with the head, she gets headaches, and a lot of times they're tied with her cycle, with the hormones. And she has a touch of a headache today. She has a hysterectomy coming next week, but they're going to leave the ovaries, so she'll still have the hormones, so that's still something that she'll struggle with.
So I'd like you to do what needs to be done to release that headache right now. I know that you can make the needed changes right now. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being excruciating pain and 1 being very minimal, what was the intensity of her pain?
It was about a 3.
Okay. So I'd like you to work with it until it goes down to 1. I want you also to tell me if there is any message that the body is communicating through this pain.
I don't think so. It's just a slight imbalance.
How is the progress with the release of the headache?
It's probably about a 2 now.
Okay, keep working on it. Allowing the necessary adjustments to be made. But I'd like you to continue with the scan now and tell me what else you notice.
Everything seems alright. She's healthy beyond the headache she gets and the tumors that cause the hysterectomy.
Okay, so I'd like you to focus on the site of where a hysterectomy will be performed and fill that area with powerful healing light that will remain there through the procedure and until all the healing is complete, creating a strong image, an impression for the body of healthy tissues, healthy organs, so that the body takes that image and creates it as the procedure is performed. Is that area filled with light?
Yes.
It will remain there until the body is healed. Now tell me about the progress with the head.
It's down to a 1.
Wonderful. Now in a moment when I touch your forehead, you're going to experience a complete release of any and all symptoms of that headache, so that it shoots down to 0. Right now, feeling light, releasing any tension. Become aware of the decisions that you're making in your life. Decision making is often connected to issues with one's head. As you become clear about your life path and the importance of your own joy and happiness, decisions will become easier to make. And so your head will not have to hurt, because you will find yourself making those decisions easily and effortlessly, being guided by the wisdom that lives within you. How does your head feel now?
Feels good. I still feel a shadow of it.
It will be gone within a moment or 2, as many as you wish, because it is your decision. You can let it go only as fast as you become ready to make your own decisions. Choose your own path. And when you're ready, you will find your headache gone. I would like to ask the higher consciousness if you have a direct message for Sara. Go ahead and give it to her right now.
Just that she needs to trust herself more, and that's the reason she came. She knows the way she should go. She just needs to trust herself and do what she knows is right for her.
Is she ready to do that?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the higher consciousness now to recede to where it belongs with much love and thanks for the help and information that it has given Sara today.